All right, listen up, because I'm only going to tell this story once. You think you know what it's like to be laughed at, to be told you're worthless, to have your dreams trampled under the boots of those who are supposed to love you? Well, buckle up, because I'm about to take you on a ride through hell and back. It all started with a report, a climate report, the most innovative piece of work I'd ever done. I poured my heart and soul into it. Every waking moment dedicated to proving that we could save this planet, that we could turn the tide of climate change. I was young, idealistic, and stupid enough to think that my family would be proud. Boy, was I wrong. The day I presented that report to the scientific community, I thought I was on top of the world. I stood there in front of all those stuffy old men in their suits, and I laid out my vision. And what did they do? They laughed. They laughed in my face, called me a fool, a dreamer, a waste of space. And my family? They were right there with them, shaking their heads, whispering about what an embarrassment I was. My own mother, the woman who was supposed to love me unconditionally, looked at me with disgust. "You're a disgrace," she said, her voice as cold as ice. "You'll never amount to anything. You might as well give up now." And my father, the man I'd always looked up to, just shook his head. "You're a fool, son," he said, "a fool and a dreamer. You'll never change the world. You'll never amount to anything." I was devastated. I was crushed. I was broken. But I was also angry. Angry at them. Angry at the world. Angry at myself for ever thinking that I could make a difference. So, I did what any sensible person would do. I ran away. I left home, left my family, left my dreams behind. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I had to get away. And that's when I found beekeeping. Old school beekeeping, the kind that doesn't involve fancy equipment or chemicals. Just me, the bees, and nature. At first, it was just a hobby, a way to pass the time. But then I started to see the potential. I started to see how the bees could help us, how they could be a part of the solution. I started to develop carbon-capturing hives, hives that could absorb more carbon than any other method out there. People laughed at me, of course. They called me a quack, a lunatic, a fool, but I didn't care. I knew I was onto something, and I was determined to see it through. And see it through I did. Years later, I stood in front of a different crowd. This time, it was a crowd of investors, of scientists, of people who believed in me. I showed them my hives, my bees, my carbon-capturing technology, and they were amazed. They invested in me, they believed in me, and they helped me turn my dream into a reality. I started a company that's now at the forefront of carbon-capturing technology. I've transformed barren lands into thriving ecosystems. I've proven that nature's quiet power can overcome industrial doubt, and I've made a difference. And then, one day, I decided it was time to go home. Time to face my family, to show them what I'd become, to make them eat their words. I walked into my childhood home, the place where it all started, and there they were. My mother, my father, my siblings, all looking at me with the same disdain they'd always had. But this time, I didn't let it bother me. This time, I had the upper hand. I had the proof, the evidence, the success. I had the power. "Remember me?" I said, my voice steady and calm. "Remember the fool, the dreamer, the waste of space? Well, look at me now." And then I showed them. I showed them the videos, the pictures, the reports. I showed them the barren lands I'd transformed, the ecosystems I'd created, the carbon I'd captured. I showed them the difference I'd made. And as they watched, as they saw the truth, I saw the change in their eyes. I saw the disbelief, the shock, the realization. I saw the moment when they understood that they'd been wrong, that they'd underestimated me, that they'd missed out on something incredible. But I didn't gloat. I didn't rub it in their faces. I just stood there, calm and collected, and let them see the truth. And when they were done, when they'd seen it all, I turned to them and said, I forgive you. And I meant it. I forgave them for their doubt, for their ridicule, for their disbelief. I forgave them for trying to crush my dreams, for trying to hold me back. Because I knew that if I hadn't gone through all that, if I hadn't faced all that adversity, I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't have become the carbon whisperer, the man who proved that nature's quiet power can overcome industrial doubt. I wouldn't have become the man who transformed barren lands into thriving ecosystems, who captured carbon and saved the planet. And so I left them there, with their disbelief and their shock and their realization. I left them there, with their forgiveness and their understanding. And I walked away, knowing that I'd made a difference, knowing that I'd proven them wrong, knowing that I'd become something incredible. And that, my friends, is my story. The story of the carbon whisperer, the man who was laughed at, ridiculed, and dismissed. The man who was told he'd never amount to anything, who was told to give up, to quit, to walk away. The man who didn't listen, who didn't give up, who didn't walk away. The man who proved them all wrong. The man who made a difference. The man who became something incredible. And that, my friends, is the power of belief, the power of determination, the power of never giving up. And that, my friends, is the story of the carbon whisperer.